1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men are expected to be victims of domestic violence during the pandemic. And this constant stress and fear can actually make it harder for those people to fight off the virus itself. Our Sydney Stallworth has more.
Because of COVID-19, millions of Americans are stuck at home, but home isn't always a safe place. Experts tell us that victims of domestic violence are at risk in more ways than one, especially during this pandemic.
It is an intimate terrorism that saps energy and sets the family members up for long-term health problems.
Dr. Patricia Speck, a domestic violence expert, nurse practitioner, and professor at UAB School of Nursing, tells us the stress of domestic violence actually makes it harder for victims to fight off COVID-19.
Not downplaying the pandemic now, but the people who will be affected by the illnesses are those with exhausted immune systems, and that is the outcome of chronic stress from domestic terrorism.
And during this time when tensions are high, some will take out their frustrations on others.
Stress goes up because jobs are lost, alcoholism increases.
And children particularly suffer.
Children without support under chronic stress cannot learn.
Dr. Speck tells us the number of people searching for help is already on the rise.
Birmingham, they may have seen as much as a 50% increase recently.
She predicts once the stay-at-home order is lifted, the numbers will rise even more.
They will be reaching for help.
And help is available. For a list of resources, head to rocketcitynow.com. Putting the Valley first, Sydney Stallworth, WZDX News.